Hello, Dr. Mengele. So what do you think of? What do you think of Prince Andrew having to pay 12 million to the retired American prostitute who accused him? Do you think it's a good thing? I know you're Australian. Maybe you hate the British. So you'd be pleased that Andrew was made to be settled? You pleased about that, are you, Dr. Mengele? How do you feel? Do you men think it's a good thing? I'm not going to make it about me. I've already told you yesterday what I think of it. 12 million quid, eh? She hit the fucking jackpot, didn't she? What does this mean for the British, though? No what? No what, Dr. Mengele? What do you say no to? Come on, type in complete sentences so I don't have to keep asking you. What are you saying yes to? What do you say no to? Let's have a bit more joined up thinking. Is one of you going to be saying that Jeffrey is Jewish? So what are you saying, Dr. Mengele? Are you glad? Are you glad Andrew is coughing up 12 million and his mum is going to help him pay? Really? You pleased about that? You think he deserved it? I suppose some of you will be thinking, he must have been guilty. That's why he paid up. And you would be, well, justified in thinking that. It's like, well, we won't know, will we? Or perhaps he will, some little item of news will come out. Do you think Andrew might have been pressured into settling? How about this? How about we imagine how I would be if I were in his shoes? I mean, obviously, if I never had sex with her, then, well, I would be fighting it all the way, right? So the truth might be something in the middle that, he did have sex with her, but not on that occasion, or something like that. But I've said all along, that it's not illegal for a man to have sex with a 17-year-old female. In 2001, in the UK, where the age of consent is 16. So what the Americans are doing is treating Britain like it was the state of California or the state of Florida, where the age of consent is 18. So how do you feel about that, Britons? No comment? And then there's only two of you. And there's only two of you because I'm being shadow bound, aren't I? Has anybody else been talking about it? The bigger channels, Millennial Woes, Academic Agent. Maybe you heard what Ralph said about Prince Andrew. Did he say anything about her? Him? Yesterday when he was doing one of his long streams? Ed Dutton? Or are they leaving this subject alone? Is it too hot to handle for you guys? So I have to do it. Shall we assume that he was pressured into settling? After all, his legal team were, being quite aggressive. Maybe they were threatened by the CIA. Maybe... Well, we don't know. We don't know. We can only speculate. 12 million quid, eh? She fucking hit the jackpot. Who's going to pay for it? The British taxpayer, of course. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to incentivize all these kiss and tell women, right? They'll be gunning for these men with, well, something to lose. And this will all be assisted by the monarchy. You can say, oh, they started it. They were the ones who started screwing 17-year-old Americans in their own country where it isn't a crime and ending up having to pay 12 million quid for the privilege. I'm sure she was already paid to do it, wasn't she? How many times is she going to keep coming back? This reminds me of Dangeld, right? The Vikings would come to Britain and raid and ape and pillage. And the British would pay them, or the ancient Britons would pay them money to stay away, and they just keep coming back. Guess what's going to happen now? And this is what the British monarchy has facilitated. So let's imagine what I would do if I were Andrew and I had screwed her, okay? Let's imagine that. I did. In 2001. Maybe not on the day that I thought. When I said I was in Woking with a Pizza Express with my kiddies. Let's say I was Andrew and I did. Is that a crime? No. Is she going to say I assaulted her? I was a bit sweaty? What was it? It's like, well, not a crime to be sweaty, not a crime to have sex with a prostitute. What's a problem? So, what is the problem really? It's like, yeah, we all know they screw about. Randy Andy, his wife also screwed about. A Texan sucked her toe, if you remember. There were pictures of it in the Sun. So what's the problem now? What is the problem? Maybe we don't need a monarchy anymore. That's just too much of a target for people who hate the British, right? So let's not have a target, If we think that somebody's gunning for us, we wouldn't go around, if we're afraid of being assassinated, we don't go around wearing a shirt with a kind of, what do you call it? This thing that you see through, when you're about to shoot someone. What do I mean? It's this thing that you see through a along a rifle. So, this target thing, you wouldn't be wearing one of those on your t-shirt. So yeah, you wouldn't do that unless you were stupid. So the British monarchy, it's now... Okay, so maybe they were just going to lose either way. So they admitted, yeah, I fucked that prostitute when she was 17 in London in 2001. So what? Not crime, is it? Not a crime. And if you're going to say it's a crime, well, on what basis is it a crime? Is it because Britain is a 51st state of America and is to be treated like California or Florida? Well, then let it be official. If you want to put me in jail for having sex with a woman that I was entitled to have sex with when she was 17 and over the age of consent as far as the British are concerned, but not where the Americans in Florida and California are concerned, then let's make this official. You could have done that. I would have done that. And I think that would have been, well, the honourable way. It's like, yeah, go down fighting, don't pay some retired American prostitute 12 million when she was already paid to do the dirty deed in 2001. She was already being paid to do it, and now she wants it to be paid again. Well, you're going to give it to her? Yes, because they always give way. They always cut and run. They always say they're going to fight, but in the end, they cave in because they have no principles, they always say they try and do this thing that they claim that they're going to fight to the end, and then they don't. And so it is better that they don't even try. So Andrew is like a politician who accidentally says the truth and then apologizes for it 3 days later. So he's just doing the thing that the British establishment always do. If they accidentally say the truth, they will apologize for it. So now the precedent must be that any man with anything to lose will become the target of a historic sexual offence. Are you happy about that, Ralph? Are you? I think you are, because you're stupid, right? So what is your position on it, Ralph? Did you stream about that yesterday? Was it one of the topics that you discussed? And how long did you go on for? I dipped in from time to time. Well, actually only once when I noticed that Diana was on, but they kept drowning her out. All these sort of yappy men who couldn't control themselves, talking over her, not behaving like gentlemen. But then, we know you're not a gentleman, don't we, Ralph? You might have all the trappings of being a gentleman, but we know you're not. And nobody trusts you. Eight hours. Designed not to be listened to, designed not to be... It's just spurging, isn't it? Spurging and displacement therapy. Sad little men that nobody would listen to coming onto your channel. To say what they want to say, to relieve their feelings and then be forgotten about. Their streams, their voices not even listened to, and if listened to would only show stupidity, irrelevance, banality, mediocrity. And this is what you pander to, Ralph Masilamani. So back to Andrew, the British prince whose word is worth less than that of a retired American prostitute. Britons, please note, this is now your status. You're going to have to pay this retired American prostitute 12 million. Your queen is going to pay, and the queen is probably going to get a contribution from the British taxpayer, who are stupidly cheering that Andrew got it because, well, they have always hated the British royal family. We know why the Queen loves the Commonwealth so much, because as far as the rest of the world is concerned, the British royal family represents fairy tale kings and queens and prince and princesses. If you look at any of the Disney cartoons, the uniforms, the heraldry is taken from British displays of pageantry and heraldry. So it is really the British family that keeps alive this childish desire in so many adults of stories about once upon a time in a land far, far away, and always ending in, and they lived happily ever after. So this is what the British royal family represents to people all around the world, even to Americans. But it is the Americans who destroyed this childish little myth. But it is just as well, I think, since the monarchy is now an anachronism. Life is now too complicated to be ruled by an absolute monarch, unless you want to be North Korea, of course. So North Korea is technically a republic, but behaves like a monarchy. Not a good lookout. China, at least, is, well, egalitarian. Because the whole idea of a republic is that the next leader of the nation will be, well, not somebody confined to the current monarch and his male relations. And you can see the difference. You can see the difference in the stupidity of families and the instability of these countries ruled by absolute monarchies. No peaceful transition of power. Civil wars. And this brings me to the subject of Christianity, which was really a corrupt bargain between the Catholic Church and European monarchs. And this was the bargain. The bargain was, well, if you convert to Catholicism, we, the Catholic Church in Rome, will support your reign with, well, our clever little ideas, because we come from the eternal city. We are the city from which emerged your former conquerors. And of course the European monarchs at the time, being no more than barbarian kings, accepted the bargain. And that was the whole purpose of Christianity. Constantine the Great was the one who adopted Christianity because he realized that the imperial cult had failed. We know all about the year of the 5 emperors. The problem was because nobody believed in it. The Romans didn't believe in it, certainly not the political classes who were apt to fight amongst themselves for power. But let me put this to you. If Islam had been available in the time of Constantine the Great, do you really think he would have adopted Christianity? It was only a half-baked idea, wasn't it? Why do you think Constantine called the Council of Nicaea? That was, of course, in order to fully bake Christianity, who didn't at the time even have an agreed doctrine. Constantine had to call the bishops from all parts of Rome to Nicaea and demand that they agree a doctrine. So he left them to it, and they were taking too long, and he had to hurry them along by making the seats uncomfortable, I seem to remember reading somewhere. And even then they couldn't agree. And there was a dissenting minority called the Arians who said that, well, they could agree that Jesus must have been in some way divine. They couldn't quite make the leap of declaring that deceased Jew to be the co-equal of the God of Israel, who is also Allah. You know, the one who created the universe. They couldn't quite see how Jesus was the same as him. And this is really the nonsensical and idolatrous and blasphemous beliefs of Christianity. You would have thought that, with the advance of science and so many revolutions rejecting monarchy and Christianity in the West, the American, French and Russian revolutions, you would have thought that the penny would have dropped by now, but not a bit of it. And that's why we now have this anachronism that it's a British royal family. His only purpose is to keep alive the infantile, memories of so many adults who are sentimental about the fairy stories that they heard in their long ago childhood. So boys and girls, the next stage of political development must be the Islamic Republic. We're already halfway there. In China, last century, they had abandoned, I forget how many thousands of years of imperial rule. Obviously, a single man, even if he had access to a harem, wouldn't be enough. To keep the whole shebang going. And we know from the Mughal Empire that every time the Mughal emperor died, his sons had to kill each other in order to secure their position on the throne. So that was enormously unstable. And so we know that as far as Islam is concerned, a caliph is not a king, because a caliph would only be a ruler of a republic, and therefore only a constitutional dictator, and we know that a dictator has no right to bequeath his position to his male offspring or male relations. North Korea has so far managed to defy that rule, but it will not be forever. We know that China is better governed now than it was under the Qing dynasty. We also know that the Qing dynasty is infamous for the rule of the Dowager Empress. And her reign was known by the fact that it was all too little and too late, her reforms, and the job of governing China was made particularly difficult because they had a woman who couldn't really be reasoned with. So all her reforms were too little and too late. She did have good advisors, but she wasted time and she wasted money and she indulged herself with the building of the Summer Palace, which the Europeans trashed. So China then was not being rationally governed, but now it is, and the Europeans, the Westerners have noticed, and that's why they're being so aggressive towards China, because they see a rising China as a threat to their hegemony. But at least the Chinese are trying, and they have the most rational system it is possible to have, a one-party state. And this is what I advocate, and this is also what the Quran supports. But the British, with their anachronistic monarchy that now only serves to remind the British of their humiliation by the Americans, who now officially treat Britain as the 51st state, with the age of consent, that is 18, 2 years older than the age of consent here, which is 16. Anyway, they got their way. No American so far has been implicated in any of the shenanigans of Jeffrey Epstein. The British are the fall guys. They are the stupid ones, the poodles of America. It is, in fact, a day of national humiliation, though you wouldn't know it from the way the British media are reporting it. But then, the British media are known for their liberal, unpatriotic stance on almost anything that you can think of. Anyway, I propose a different kind of government using a different kind of system. So what did Ralph propose in his 8-hour stream yesterday? Was anything he, even suggested? Any course of action? Or was it just a, massive whinge fest of all these marginalised men who had nowhere to go and who had no one to listen to them whinge other than on Ralph's channel? That's why they go there. And they're joined by others who are perhaps too shy to whinge on Ralph's channel and would only post in the chat. But it was a communion of marginalised men, too afraid to use their names, their real names, to complain and propose solutions. And that is the difference between me and Ralph. So Ralph is still talking about Christendom. But I know he's playing safe. He doesn't want to antagonise the white people and tell them that their Christianity is kaput. Because he's a panderer. And that's the difference between me and Ralph. I'm not a panderer. Another panderer is Millennial Woes. I listened to him on Telegram. Not all of it. But the bit that I listened to, I took note. Because he was talking about the Christian nationalists and the pagans, and he said, he didn't think it was his place. To contradict them. And yet he wants to think of himself as some sort of thought leader for the alt-right. Let me put it to you that anyone who thinks Christianity is capable of being revived, or that paganism would ever be capable of being used as your new national religion, should go and boil their heads. There is no patriarchy, Ralph. That's what I'm saying. There is no patriarchy, because if there were, you wouldn't be in this swamp of moral sewage. Alright, I think I've said what I wanted to say. That it's a sad day for the British, who will be made to pay, indirectly of course, for money-grubbing retired American prostitute. So the British know that they are going to be treated like Florida or California, and that they know that their prince is lower in status than a retired American prostitute, and kiss and tell women will be encouraged by this turn of events, and so any man with anything to lose will be at risk of being accused of a historic sexual offence. Thank you for your attention.